What happens when a foreign empire demands you kneel, but you've already decided you are their equal? In the early 17th century, as European powers began their scramble for the African coast, one woman stood as the ultimate barrier to their ambitions. This is the story of Queen Nzinga Mbande, a master of the blade and the boardroom, who spent 40 years outmaneuvering the Portuguese Empire to protect the sovereignty of her people. We begin in 1622, in the heart of West Central Africa. The Portuguese were aggressively expanding their colony in Luanda, seeking to dominate the region of Ndongo for its resources and to fuel the brutal transatlantic slave trade. They viewed the local leaders as mere vassals to the Portuguese crown. But Nzinga, the sister of the reigning king of Ndongo, was sent to Luanda to negotiate a peace treaty. She was not there to beg. She was there to command respect. Upon entering the governor's office for their first meeting, Nzinga found a calculated insult waiting for her. The Portuguese governor, João Correia de Sousa, sat in a lavish chair, while the only place provided for Nzinga was a floor mat. In the governor's eyes, this reflected her subordinate status. Nzinga didn't hesitate. She signaled to one of her attendants, who immediately dropped to all fours to create a human throne. Nzinga sat upon her attendant's back, bringing herself level with the governor's eyes. This single act of defiance sent a clear message. She would never speak from a position of inferiority. Nzinga successfully negotiated the treaty, but the peace was short-lived. Following the death of her brother, she ascended to the throne as the Queen of Ndongo. However, the Portuguese refused to honor her authority, fueling internal rivals to challenge her rule. Faced with overwhelming firepower, Nzinga made a brilliant tactical decision. She led her people east and conquered the kingdom of Matamba. She transformed Matamba into a military powerhouse and a sanctuary. She offered freedom to enslaved soldiers who deserted the Portuguese army, integrating their European military training into her own forces. She perfected guerrilla warfare, using the dense terrain to ambush colonial patrols and disrupt their supply lines. Nzinga was rarely found in a palace. She was often on the front lines, dressed in men's battle gear, leading her troops with a ferocity that terrified her enemies. Nzinga's brilliance wasn't limited to the battlefield. She was a visionary diplomat. Recognizing that the Portuguese were not the only Europeans in the Atlantic, she reached out to the Dutch. In 1641, she formed a strategic alliance with the Dutch West India Company. It was the first African-European alliance against another European power. With Dutch naval support and her land forces, she nearly drove the Portuguese out of the region entirely. She maintained her grip on power for decades, navigating a landscape of shifting loyalties and constant threats. Even in her 60s and 70s, she remained a formidable presence, personally overseeing negotiations and military drills. She resisted the Portuguese until her death in 1663 at the age of 81, leaving behind a kingdom that remained independent long after other neighboring states had fallen. Today, Queen Nzinga is remembered as the mother of Angola and a global symbol of anti-colonial resistance. She proved that leadership is not just about force, but about the wit to change the rules of the game when they are stacked against you. Her legacy reminds us that dignity is not given, it is asserted. Next time, we move forward in history to the American Civil War, where another figure would use his wits to seize freedom in one of the most daring maritime escapes in history, the story of Robert Smalls.